Hello, everybody. How are you? Welcome to Deborah's Journey. My name is Deborah, and today I am going to be sharing my January budget closeout. I want to share what I did in terms of spending. Did I stay on budget or did I go over? And of course, the answer is I went over by quite a bit. I'm a little disappointed because I was really hoping to have a budget that was close to what I had set, but there were a lot of things that happened in the month, so let's get into the budget. So reflecting back, I budgeted $8,550 for the month. I also did not include any extra rollover. So I was hoping again that this was going to be enough money to cover me for the month. All right, so let's move to our fixed expenses. I budgeted 1,675 for housing, and that includes my four walls and all of my utilities, water, trash. And so I budgeted that amount, and I actually spent $1,678.55. So I was over by 355, which is pretty good. My giving is next. I do not share that amount. I just wanted to put it on here to show that I do pay my tithes and offering at my church. All right, so for car insurance, I budgeted 126.83. I actually spent 125.95. So I was under by 88 cents. Spectrum Internet was $75. I budgeted, and then I spent $74.99, which is really just 1 penny. For life insurance, I budgeted $64.69, and I actually spent $64.60. So I was under by 99 cents. Okay, so for my direct TV service, budgeted 80 and 79.99 was what was spent. My Sirius XM budgeted $849, and yes, I spent $849. My Apple storage, same thing, it was $299, and I spent $299. For Apple Care, which is for my phone, I budgeted $11.50, and I spent 11.49, which is a 1 cent difference. For my Google memberships, I budgeted $12, and I actually spent $14.96 on those. And then for my son's cell phone, I budgeted 75. I put 65 towards that. Now, really, this phone is less than that. This is on a credit card, and I put extra money on the card. So instead of having two line items, one for the phone, one for the credit card charges, I just lumped it together. But I did put $65 towards that credit card. He does pay me for his phone, so that is something that is charged on my card, but the funds come from him. Okay, and then my cell phones, I budgeted 144. I actually spent 144.37. So just 37 cents difference. So how did I do with my fixed expenses? I budgeted 2,275.50, and I spent $2,271.38. So I was under by $4.12, which is wonderful. So I think in January, my fixed expenses were very close to what I budgeted, and I'm certainly happy with those numbers. But let's go to the next category, my variable spending, and we'll see that there was a lot of difference in that category. For groceries, I budgeted $525. I spent $604.36. Now, I do have a change in my household. My father is staying with me a little longer than he normally in the past. He would stay every other weekend. It would just be the weekend. But now he's here much longer. So my groceries will go up. He will help contribute to that, but I want to make sure that on my end, I'm budgeting properly for that expense. So again, it was over by $79.36. Okay, moving on to personal. I budgeted 125 and I gave myself 120 and that was enough. So I was under by 5. Gasoline, I budgeted 425 and I actually spent 415.04. I'm so proud of myself because gas is expensive in California, and I kept thinking, oh, I'm going to be way over, but I actually stayed on budget, and I was under by almost $10. So that's pretty good. I'm very happy that I was able to stick to my numbers and very close to them in the gas category. Okay, prescriptions. So I didn't need any prescriptions. I will need a prescription for next month. So I will have a charge for February. So the next category is Fast Track. That is my freeway express service. I budgeted 40. That's what I spent. Moving on to birthdays. I budgeted 150 for birthdays and I actually paid 165. And those are gifts. So that's what I spent. Usually cash gifts. And so I was over by $15. All right, so let's talk about vehicle maintenance. So I mentioned that I had a cracked windshield. I had to get that fixed. I had to get brakes fixed. I needed an oil change. So it was a lot going on for the month of January. I got the brakes done. I also got the oil change, and that was $700. Wow. Now, the windshield is not even included in this, and I'll tell you why. It's because the windshield had to be special ordered and it's not ready yet. So the company, although I made an appointment, is waiting for the windshield. And when they get the windshield, they'll tell me when I can go in and get it replaced. So I'm just waiting for them to call me back. But that is going to be an additional $500 when I get the windshield installed. So that's the only reason why this category is under. If I had gotten the windshield, I would be way over. So I'm under right now by $139.24. But this category will roll over to next month because I still have to get my windshield replaced. All right, the next category is yard maintenance. I have to get that rolled over because we've had a lot of rain lately, and I wanted to get someone in to, kind of trim the bushes and whatnot, but I will have to wait until February because right now we are in February, and I want to make sure that the weather's good for that person to come in and do that. So that will roll over. All right, giveaway, YouTube. I budgeted $50. I didn't spend anything. I did have a January, I call it a gift away, not a giveaway, but a gift away. And the winners did not claim their prizes. Now, I am going to be adamant that when I have these giveaways, whoever wins has to go to my video and they have to claim their winnings. If they don't do that, the funds will roll over to the next month. So unfortunately, I was not able to give away anything in January. So we will see how February goes. My P.O. Box renewal sprung up on me. I had no idea it was time to renew the P.O. Box because I just got that P.O. Box in October and I wasn't clear when it was going to renew. Well, it's renewed in January. I received a notice. You owe $75. So thank goodness I have a sinking fund for this, and I was able to pull the funds from there. So $75 was added to my January budget. Eating out. I failed miserably in that category. I budgeted 125, but I spent $374.44. Now, one of the reasons why I spent a lot of money is because going out to these restaurants, celebrating birthdays is very expensive. And I celebrated 3 birthdays in the month of January. So those were pricey. I also sometimes get home pretty late. I have a long work day. And if I don't have food cooked, and I'm trying to do a better job in that area, but if I don't have food cooked, I will end up picking up food and eating it because I don't have time to cook it. Now, I will cook food sometimes on the weekend, and that will last a couple of days, a few days, but there's still going to be a day or two in the week that I have to eat out. So I am hoping to do better in this category for February. And I also, when I pick up foods, usually I'm picking it up for more than myself. So I might be picking it up for my son and my father sometimes. So that's why this category is a little more. And, realistically, I may have to increase this budget item for February. So I was over by $249.44. Okay, the next category is buffer. I set aside $100 for the buffer, but in reality, I spent $245.04. Now, I did have some things that were not related to eating out. I actually also loaned someone some money. I'm waiting to get that back, so that's part of it. So I was over by $145.04. So let's see what the total is. My variable expenses, I budgeted $2,525. I spent $2,799.64. So I was over by $274.64, which is a lot. And I'm hoping next month I'll have a better number. So for my Discover card, I budgeted $150. I paid $200. For my Sounds Club, I budgeted $200. I sent $200 to that payment. Car payment was $550. My student loan, I budgeted $850. However, I actually paid $1,026 on my student loan for January. I did have help with a couple of savings challenges, so I was able to add that to the payment. And then I have a personal loan that I have had. It was a 3-year term, and I believe I have about a year and maybe a couple of months to go. And I owe $302.30. And so that is what I paid. So my total debt for the month of January, I budgeted $2,052.30, but I actually paid $2,328.30 to debt. So I always like to see an increase in debt. That makes me happy. Okay, so our next category is investments. So I invest in Vanguard, SoFi, Fidelity, M1 Finance, and I do have a Roth IRA. So Vanguard, I budgeted 50, that's what I paid. SoFi 25 is what I sent to SoFi. Fidelity, same thing. M1 Finance, I budgeted 75, I sent 75. And then my Roth IRA, I budgeted 200, and I sent. So this category was spot on, guys. I actually didn't have a penny difference. So I budgeted 375, and 375 is what I spent in my investment category. So I'm very happy with that number. Okay. So let's move on to savings. So my savings, I budgeted 225. However, I sent $382.04 to savings. So I was over by $157.04. So that is a good thing. Anytime you can add more to savings, it's a positive, and I'm happy about that. Okay, so for my challenges, I budgeted 400. I actually put 440 towards my challenges. So I was over by 40. So for my envelope challenge, I budgeted 100, and I was able to send 107 to that. So I was over by $7. So my savings total, I budgeted 725, and I actually sent $929.04 to my savings. So I'm very happy, $204 more towards savings. And then for my sinking funds, I sent $688, which means 88 more dollars went towards my sinking funds, my lifesaver funds is what I call them. And those are my online and my cash sinking funds. So how did I do for the month of January? I budgeted $8,552.80, and I actually spent $9,391.36. So I was over by $838.56. So I'm not mad about the increases towards my savings. I'm not mad that I was able to put more money towards debt because I used savings challenges for that. I'm just not happy with my eating out and my sort of my buffer. I have to do better in that category and try to be a little more accurate with what I'm budgeting. But all in all, January was a spendy month, and I'm looking forward to not as much spending in February, even though I think I'm going to spend more. And I'll tell you when I do my February budget overview. But for the time being, that is my month. So that was how January went. And we're in February now. Keep saving and working on our goals. Thank you for joining me for my budget overview. I hope your budget went well in January too. And I will talk to you all soon. Have a wonderful month. Take care. And I will see you around in the next video. Bye.